to believe.
No, you're showing the dollar strength. I agree with you. If you have a dollar extra and putting it into defense, I support the bill.
Yeah, okay, pay more. So let's remove the money that the Democrats put in social programs, but pay 20 times more in military spend. Let's
so the dollar extra. That's way more important.
You guys are so dumb.
That's like the right work. Left and the right work so well together because they get all sides.
It's so retarded.
I mean, at the end of the day, what this was all about, and those congressmen and Trump's friends, is they don't want to have to pay for niggers and white trash to get health care. It's just, why should we have to fucking foot the bill for these fucking peasants? And
foot the bill for the atrocities that are going on in the Middle East. Why?
No, that has nothing to do with it.
But it doesn't matter because if you remove all the healthcare spend, it still increases that. It is a retarded bill. Only a conservative would think that that's a good thing. I'm just telling you, how about you guys go back to school and learn math?
Don't know because he's
only gonna last like a year, bro. The bills, somebody's gonna draft a new one like next year.
I mean, but the one thing that I'm also like how are you MAGA retards even like actual conservatives? Conservatives are for fiscal responsibility.
MAGA is not the conservative party.
I know they're not.
Those guys worship Trump. That's all.
A lot of MAGAs.
We worship Trump.
Why do you worship some orange fucking clown?
Exactly. That's
you voted for the bitch. I need to vote. Why do you worship him?
We don't worship him.
If you didn't vote, you don't get to complain. Why didn't you vote for Captain?
I didn't vote for him.
Because she was trying to.
I voted for the third party. I voted for the black guy. Sorry.
Sorry, I didn't want collard greens in her bathtub.
If you voted for Captain, you can't go anyone.
I voted for the black guy.
Hello, Vonnie.
Hi, how are you today?
Good, how are you? Did you have something to contribute, man?
Yes, I see a lot of things going on. I work downtown near the White House, and these megas are down here training their kids how to be idiots, and they really need therapy.
Amazing. Yeah, they are a bunch of little retards.
Therapy don't work. All your kids come out retarded.
That's very, very rich.
Let's talk about therapy. That's more Medicare and healthcare costs.
Who cares about why are you still stuck on healthcare, dude? What about the debt?
Why don't you do free therapy?
No, it's the debt. Well, no, the thing is, though, if you're going to increase the debt, if you're going to increase the debt, the very least you can fucking do is not kick off the poorest and most vulnerable Americans off of fucking healthcare. Like, that's just really shitty thing to do.
Well,
You just say do that, so then reduce the debt, which is good.
Well, Kevin, it's because, there was a bunch of, videos that were going, she went on a cruise using her,
In cities that have baseball, is at least the Democrats were reward their fucking voters for voting for them.
What? Since what? I never fucking got a reward from that.
And on student loan, disproportionately going to be females that go to college, and then fucking liberals amongst them, right? And then who gets all the fucking money in all the colleges? All the fucking liberal fucking administration, all that. It disproportionately they reward their own, where clearly Trump's not doing that.
They don't reward their own. Look at the most.
Yeah, they did. He ended up like a bunch of people got student loan forgiveness. They made it a lot easier. I mean, it was disgusting the amount of money that universities were charging. Basically the universities started charging the maximum. The started to be the maximum amount you can get out in student loans, and so he did that. They didn't fuck with people's Medicaid. They didn't do any of that shit. Yeah, the Democrats spent a lot of money, but hold on, Marcus, Uncle Ruckus, whatever. But they ended up. They spent more money, but at least they did shit for people.
No,
What is this fucking clown? He's gonna put us further in debt, and he's gonna give nothing. In fact, he's gonna give his 2-inch micro penis dick and skeet in every fucking poor person's mouth. And while his friends get rich, that is amazing.
Democrats never paid more. Democrats never paid more than Republicans. Never happened.
They never did. And Pepe, the most impoverished cities in America have been run by Democrats for at least 30 years. Every impoverished city. Every impoverished city. Why?
Probably because.
And guess what? That's their biggest voting base.
That's common sense.
People that live in those poverty.
Well, you get bad. It comes with good and bad. So what you're gonna get is they're gonna try to give you more services and make your life easier as being poor, but they also do a very important job of managing crime and lawlessness.
Managing crime and lawlessness. The city that I'm talking about,
But at least they
the poverty
promise
city,
their voters.
for 30 years.
They were poor before the Democrats, though. That's what you don't understand.
My God, the Democrats are actually
If the Republicans-
conservative.
What?
Yes, they spend less than Republicans.
If the Republicans are at least going to increase the debt, they might as well keep
I think the bigger voters is one of the
Exactly. This is why I had real reservations voting for Donald Trump. Is like he does not have the average American's best interests at heart, in my opinion. I do think that if you're, happen to be, a very high earner, you probably want to go with him. But I don't know, a lot of you guys saw, here he is handing out Happy Meals at the McDonald's drive-thru and driving a garbage truck. Those same people are going to go without health care now.
Well, the average American's not on Medicaid, right? The average American's
Yeah, but I'm talking about, but that's why I'm talking about the most vulnerable and poor, especially the rural poor. Why, of all people, a lot of people voted for him also because of the goddamn mess from all of these fucking illegals coming into this country. And, something had to be done about it. But why are you going to shit on your own people, especially the ones that overwhelmingly voted for you? Like that, and still increase the deficit. Like that is just shitty.
Well, that's
really shitty thing to do.
Yeah, I don't know. MAGA, they didn't really campaign on this, so it's like, you can't really hold them like they knew about it and they support it. I mean, there's obviously a lot to do, but like I didn't support that.
I don't understand why you guys are lining immigration and having more Americans. Like, if I don't want Mexicans, I'm gonna kick them out. I don't really care because I'm cool and whoever's poor. I just want the Mexicans out. I mean, that's I think most of Americans don't understand.
Here's what the bill is gonna do, right? Okay, all the 17 million people kicked off healthcare, right? It's gonna be the Hunger Games now. Now all these liberal left Democrats are gonna actually give a fuck that these illegal aliens are getting their benefits. Now they're gonna be like, whoa. No. You better not get that shit if I don't get that shit. Now they're gonna give a fuck about their benefits, right? Number one, right? And those illegals do get benefits, trust me. I'm from California. I've seen them at the offices all the goddamn time, right? So I know people that work there and everything. I know they're getting them, right? So but now Americans are actually gonna give a shit about that, which they should have cared the whole time, right? Now I'm not saying it's a good thing. I didn't say I even support this bill, but I do know that this liberal left is finally gonna wake the fuck up and realize that, hey, my grandma can't get it, but this illegal still getting it. Nah, that's not fair, right? Now they're gonna give a shit, right? So I think that's a good thing for a wake up call, right? Number one. Number two, right? When it comes down to the specifics of the bill, I don't think anybody really knows it right now. I think everybody's talking bullshit. Everybody's yapping. I don't think anybody knows the specifics of it. So I'm hearing two different things. I'm hearing one to where this is the federal bill and the states can still impose whatever they want to impose. And then two, I'm hearing that all the numbers are bullshit. I don't really know. The Democrats are saying this is what it is, but the Republicans aren't really saying this. I don't really know what the bill does. So I have to sit back and read it. I have to sit back and really, really see what it really entails for me to know anything about it. But I do know one thing, though, right? That this is really going to be a wake-up call for a lot of people.
Sure. Well, okay, I'm going to close the room, guys. Thank you, everybody, for showing up.
Motherfuckers waiting for your refund check. You wasn't paying taxes.
Somebody on the mods invite Just Steve to the stage. I'm curious. He's a lawyer, and I'm curious.
And what if she doesn't pay it? Then we are actually not.
So, Sarah, I just want to make this clear. I want to make something clear to you.
Attacking certain classes.
I want to make this clear to you, and then I'm going to pass the mic to Adams. What you just said is that you want the government to be involved, and this, by definition, makes you a socialist.
Yeah, so, Roger, I'm calling a lot of bullshit about people that want to use the student loan model and their grievances about how the big, beautiful bill is ruining everybody's lives. These are the same people that are otherwise complaining about not being able to pay their student loans, yet they have time to be complaining about it on Clubhouse. Obviously, it's not that expensive to where you're dedicating time to which you otherwise should be working a second job to pay off that debt, complaining about it on the internet. I'm sorry. At some point, these people have to stop complaining and they have to go to work like the rest of us.
Yeah, Roger. The only thing I was going to say is that the only mistake that I made in the chat earlier, I was looking at the cost of attendance or whatever for that college, and you were right. Yeah, it is around like 1.2, 1.4 a year. I was looking at just the cost of attendance sheet that they put on their website, like the expected cost or whatever, after accounting for like books, supplies, living expenses, transportation, and personal meds on top of the tuition. They say apparently for at home it's 21K, for away it's 35K, but those are still easily doable.
Well, let's be honest though, like the majority of people that go to a community college are people that live in the community. And when they go to community college, typically it's right after high school. So these are people that are still living with their parents, that live in the community, and they're either taking a bus or getting driven to the school by their fucking parents. Maybe they even ride a bike. Maybe they're close enough to walk. The whole idea behind a community college is to provide a lower cost opportunity to people to put their toe in the water to get an education. Many of the people that go to these community colleges, they don't finish their 2-year degree. They don't get enough credits to establish themselves to transfer to a 4-year institution. In fact, the majority of them, they go there, they take a couple of classes, and then they reaffirm to themselves, yes, this education thing is not for me. So I don't know why Sarah brought up Compton Community College. Like, it's one of the weirdest examples I've ever fucking heard somebody bring up.
I have a bit of a disagreement with it. Like, I'm a community college student right now, and I know a ton of other people in my classes that are too. Most of us do live by ourselves, and if not, we have rented out rooms with like roommates and that type of stuff, and we're paying for that. The majority of us do have cars to get to work.
Did you go to community college right out of high school?
Yeah.
So you're telling me that you opted to move out of your parents' home to take the burden of rent and utilities while you don't have the career, rather than stay at home, go to community college.
I worked just enough in order to be able to make that payment by myself. Originally, I had moved out with an old partner of mine. We had a place together at that point, and then we ended up having that split between both of us, right? Because I was kind of getting tired of how far away I was from the college I was attending. I was like 40 minutes away from where I was at. And take in mind, the majority of the reason why most of people in my age range, like maybe 22 to 24, ended up going to community was because we graduated in the COVID time. Like, we graduated 2020, 2021-ish, right? So most of us were just like, I'm not going to pay extra tens of thousands of dollars just to go to a different online link to have the same education for my prerequisite courses. So the majority of us ended up just going to community college in that case. And at least for me moving out, that's because I had a partner during that time. We moved in together. We paid separate rent during that point because we didn't want to live in our parents' house anymore. Plus, the house that we ended up getting, or the condo that we ended up getting, was about, I think, like 20 minutes closer to our schools and our jobs too. So it was just better for like practicality of what I was going to do too. Plus, most of us have cars in high school by that time. We don't usually wait till afterwards to get our cars. And even if we do, you can still find like a easy $500,000 beater that you can get yourself onto. So there's a lot of choice that you could make there, but it's kind of seem like it's out of the range for most people.
Yeah, well, but prior to having a career, you're taking on the debt of rent, you're taking on the debt of a car payment.
My car's paid off, so that's fine. I don't have to deal with that one. It's just the remortgage I have to deal with.
But you had to pay $5,000 for the car, is that right?
No, that one, what's it called? The car.
You said it's a $5,000 beater.
No, I said you could get a $500 to $1,000 beater if you didn't have a car already by the time you got out of high school. That's what I said.
A $500 car in 2025?
Yeah, there's actually quite a lot. If you go over on Craigslist or if you go over to a different place, it really just takes maybe 200 or a little bit more to tune it up or clean up the things that are really bad with it. And then you can put like 500 to like 2K down, and then you'll get yourself a nice little car. Now, it's not going to be great, but it does the job to get you where you need to go. And if you're in a situation where your beggars can't be choosers, well, I'd rather take a 500 to 2K beater to get where I need to go consistently and reliably.
Yeah, hold on. Yeah, so if you're going to make the choice of buying a car before you have a career, maybe if you were in an area that doesn't have public transportation, you can make an argument that that's a wise investment. But if it breaks down and you're paying maintenance costs, because buying an inexpensive, buying an inexpensive car is going to be a money pit unless you know how to work on it yourself. But the bigger point that I'm making is that all of this stuff is choice. And so if somebody chooses to move out of their parents' house, chooses to buy a car, have to pay insurance, upkeep of the car, and they're paying rent, and they're paying utilities, probably have some semblance of a social life. Those are a lot of choices that you're making. And then we have people complaining that they can't afford the loan.
Yeah, because they're not working.
It's insane. It's insane. These are not wise choices.
Like, I work 40-hour weeks for the most part, and I still do full-time student stuff, and I've been doing just fine on my end. So for me, it really, and especially if the tuition cost per semester for me is only about $1,500 each semester. I take maybe 2 to 3 each year. It's really not too big of a dent, if anything, especially if I can make that 1.5 in 2 weeks, and I can just pay for my semester in 2 weeks. So it's not really too big of an issue if people actually find decent work that they can get into or work the appropriate amount of hours rather than spending it on somewhere else. Like right now, I'm at work as we speak right now, but for the most part, most people just don't find the, drive to go ahead and just get a fucking job or put in some extra hours somewhere to get themselves to
This is probably the first time that I have completely 100% agreed with you, XG. This has been my whole point. These people are lazy. For some reason, our generation has an issue with being allergic to work. And to be very honest with you, when you look at the healthcare expenditures that people are so happy that are going to be, reduced, a lot of people from Generation X and the baby boomers have drained the generation's parents behind them financially. They financially have drained them, between having to bail them out, between all the failed relationships and having to help their 5-time divorced kids rebuild just so that their grandkids that were used to hold over the parents' head for financing reasons, tapped into people's retirements and money that otherwise would have been paying for people's health care in their older age. It's a problem. These people need to go to work. They need to stop kicking the can down the road, stop going to your parents for a handout, and go to work. It's catching up to all of us.
For the most part, I still find time to be able to pay all my bills. I've been able to take a couple vacations, for a couple days over a different state to go see a concert and hang out with some family, or to go to a different country and hang out there for maybe a week or two and then come back. It's really just knowing how to fucking network, and a lot of us don't know how to do that. So, unfortunately, that's probably why we're in the situation we're in right now. But most of the people complaining about the bills or the tuition costs right now just made really bad fucking financial decisions in getting there, or decided to go to for example, I always will never bash community college because it's one of the biggest fucking cheat codes of all time. Why would I pay tens of thousands more per semester or thousands of more per semester to go for example, I'm in Florida, so why would I pay that much more to go to UCF or FSU for my first 2 years when all I'm going to be doing is the same fucking prerequisites that I was doing at my community college that will give me the same accreditation and the same everything.
Oh my God!
Thousands less. Shut the fuck up, Dreadhead. Shut up. Anyways, continue.
Hold on. You ain't got to be disrespectful, brother.
Yeah, you were disrespectful.
You don't have to be. I said, brother, it was for the rich.
Well, hold on. You're not
digging in your ass, brother. Listen and read the bill, brother.
Keep smoking that, bitch. You smell like a black and mild. Stop talking.
Wait, hold on. I don't know if you're new to Clubhouse, Nick.
I don't give a fuck about no Clubhouse, nigga. Shut your bitch ass up.
Okay, got it.
Yeah, anyways, the point I was making was it doesn't make much sense for a lot of people to go straight to like a big 4-year school from the get-go out of high school, especially when the first 2 years in both schools, you're just going to be taking the same exact fucking prerequisites that you would have taken at the community college for thousands of dollars less with the same accreditation. And on top of that, you can get, I know that the community college I go to has a program where if you get your associate's degree over there, it's damn near a guaranteed transfer over to one of the major 4-year schools that are in Florida, whichever one of your choice. So for the most part, as long as you do that, it saves you a lot of time, a lot of money, and a lot of fucking dirty work that you don't want to have to do that people make just because, oh, I'm going to go to this big school right out of college, and then get surprised when they get financially fucked up.
Actually, you know, in most parts of the country now, there's a bigger cheat code than community college, and that's to get those college credits while you're still in high school.
Oh yeah, I do all the time, especially when you do your AP courses and all that type of stuff. But people are too fucking lazy to do the AP courses. Most of the people didn't take AP World because they heard about how hard it was for everyone else and they didn't want to take it. But I started college with about 12, 14 college credits because I took a fuck ton of APs and I did some other courses that got me some college credit as well. So I mean, if you advance your shit during high school, take a community college right afterwards to get the rest of your credits really fast, guarantee transfer to 4-year school, and then save yourself the tens of thousands that you would on the first 2 years, you're really not that bad in a financial hole. I don't understand how student loans have people in such a fucking debt unless you're in like a field that's like, I don't know, fucking the medical field or fucking tech industry or something like that. I maybe one of those two, but most of the part, people are just complaining because they chose to get degrees that wouldn't actually pay out in the same way without them acknowledging.
XG, how's your credit card then?
0. I don't have a credit card. I only use debit.
All right, then good. God bless you. Smart guy.
Hold on. Let's not say that we shouldn't have credit cards. Credit cards are good because they establish credit, and credit is something he's going to want at some point.
Oh no, I have credit. The thing is, I don't use a credit card myself. My parents have had me on theirs. My name on theirs ever since, and then they built up my credit while I was.
Yeah, that was what I was going to suggest to anybody in here is if you have kids or if you are a kid, your parents' credit, having them add you to their credit card, even if they don't give you access to using it. Let's say they keep the card and they just add you as an authorized user. What this does, not only does it create a credit history for you, but it one of the things that they measure when they're evaluating credit is the age of your credit. And so if you're somebody that's, you know, let's imagine that like at 24 you decide, hey, I might want to think about buying a house, and like that's pretty young to be thinking about that. The biggest hurdle that people would run into, aside from not having the money, right, not having the income to qualify, would be not having the credit history to qualify. But at 24, you could have been on your parents' credit, and you could have an average credit of 10 plus years. And so then when they run your credit, you know, as long as you haven't done other stupid things, pay your bills on time, all that kind of jazz, it puts you in a much better situation. And by the way, for those people that don't have a lot of credit history now, find somebody that trusts you, you trust them, that does have a long credit history, and have them add you as an authorized user. And it's just one component of your credit score, but it's an important one that gives it an instant boost.
Just as a little detail, like that's how I was able to get my first condo for the most part, because my credit score at that time was like 820 or some shit. And then afterwards, what we did is we used my parents' line of income with my credit score and got a fucking amazing rate for the house. So we were doing good on that one. So yeah, even on that one, you can even, it benefits the parents too, because if you ever want to get a new place, just tell your kids to use their line of credit, and then afterwards use your line of income, and then you're all set.
You know what you made a great point, Roger. I was just referring to credit card debt when rates are so high, but you brought it up. You're right about that. Get a credit history with no debt. Excellent point, Roger. Excellent points. Very important.
Yeah, one of the things I was going to mention, my nephew actually, during COVID for his freshman year, he had to stay home during homeschooling because my mom had kidney failure, so he didn't want to get her second son. But had he went to the public school and completed the 4 years in high school and stuff like that with his nursing and medical classes, they said that had he done the freshman year
still a student. You're employed, which I really appreciate. Do you have the ability with the bills that you do have to invest monthly into some sort of stocks, bonds, or other assets? Are you investing currently?
At the moment, I wouldn't say I'm in charge of my own investments. For the most part, what I'll do is because I know my dad does a lot of more of the financial stuff on that end, especially stock-wise, and I don't believe at this moment that I'm financially literate enough yet in order to make a smart decision on that end. So I usually just talk to him about, hey, is there anything I should be putting something into, blah, blah, blah. And then me and my dad have talked about like Roth IRAs and stuff like that, and maybe getting into doing one of those. But for the most part, not too much investment on my end.
Yeah, so here's something that people don't talk enough about with young people. It's like we wait until people are 30 or 40, and then when they go, oh man, I wish I would have done this sooner. Then the older people are like, yeah, you should have done that sooner, but they're not advising them at the time that they should be doing it. The biggest key to building wealth, it's yes, you need income to be able to invest, but it's the time, it's the consistency of doing it, month in and month out, paycheck after paycheck, but then also the time that you're in the market. And so there's a few things that I would advise people to do. Number one, that whole idea of an emergency fund, don't put that in a savings account. Go get yourself a brokerage firm. Sign up for an E-Trade account, something like that. And the money that you would have put in a traditional savings account, go buy an ETF that's mapped to T-bills. Treasury bills are a great way to get a higher interest rate than a traditional savings, but also it's very liquid. You can withdraw typically from a brokerage account like that. If you needed it in your emergency fund, you can transfer that money out to yourself within 2 days, right? And so it gives you almost the same flexibility of having the money in a savings account, but it's going to give you more than twice the amount of interest. So that's what I would do in terms of building your emergency fund. But in terms of investing for the future, until you become more financially literate, a simple investment in the S&P 500, and there's ETFs that map to that. You don't have to think about it. There's a few of them that you can choose from that essentially take your money and they give you a small piece of the S&P, which over its history, there's never been a 30-year period where it didn't average a return of 10% or more. And so I would build that emergency fund first because you need the liquidity in case an emergency happens. That's typically 6 months of living expenses. Once you have that, and by the way, the T-bill that you could purchase, if you wanted the actual ticker, it's SGOV. That's SGOV. You do that for your savings account. That's a really, really, really good option for you. The next thing I would say is that when you do need to map it to the S&P, there's a few options that you have, but you have to set that and forget that. That's money that you're never going to touch till it's time to retire. If you started doing that at your age, and I don't remember how old you are. I think
22.
I think you're under. Okay, so 22. If you did that for 30 years, and let's just say put 15% of your income, even at the income that you're at now, and then as your income grows, continue doing that, I would guarantee you that despite whatever job you have, if you just put 15%, by the time in 30 years time, you'll have easily over $1 million. And as your income grows, you'll probably be in the $3 to $5 million over a 30-year period if you did this every single fucking pay.
Yeah, I mean, that's not a bad idea for the most part. I could probably put up some money from the side from the music gigs that I do, because I work 2 jobs for the most part. I have my regular one, which is just the one that I'm doing right now. I just work at a smoke shop for the most part. I make good money here, and I make good commission off of my sales too, because I'm pretty decent at doing that. But on top of that, I do like live jazz gigs around the city too, and those pay pretty nicely too. So I can probably put some of those jazz gig funds over to the side too. Appreciate the advice.
Yeah, no.
I have a question. Roger, can you explain this to me? I thought the purpose of canceling the federal government Department of Education was to send the management of education to the states, and then the states be responsible for how they're going to deal with the student loans and all of that. Did I misunderstood that? Was this like
partially? Yeah, well,
was the
that's
purpose to send it to private lenders?
You're partially correct in terms of the desire of people closing the Department of Education is to have the states be responsible for the education in their state. That being said, do you know where the Department of Education, like what they fund? Are you aware of like what they're responsible for?
What do you mean? The Department of Education right now?
Yeah, I think a lot of people are confused about what the role of the Department of Education, which I'm totally 100% on board with abolishing.
I don't know what part of it you're talking about. Like I don't understand.
Yeah, the biggest expenditure in that is number one, it's the human resources of staffing it, but the next thing is Pell Grants, and so I would like to get the federal government completely out of loaning money. I don't think the federal government should loan money to any of us for anything. I think that these are free market exchanges that we should do in the private sector. And when people say that they want the government involved in this stuff and they want the taxpayers to insure these things, they're essentially saying that they're a socialist without knowing that they're saying that they're so.
But they do it for corporations all the time. When corporations get in trouble, so and for way more.
I don't support that either. Like, so.
But they do. So I mean, they the ones who's doing it. So it just showing. Like I get your argument, and you can have an argument from that point of view. But it's like it just taking one part of it though, because they're totally hypocritical. And so what they're trying to do is not what their stated goal cannot be their stated goal. If they steady saying fuck capitalism, they steady giving corporations money, but they want to tell the people we can't give you shit. That's not. I mean, that's not cool at all.
Well, the two things can be true at the same time. I think that the government providing social welfare, the government providing foreign aid, the government providing subsidies to large corporations, or granting them regulatory favor. These are all problems, and we can deal with all of these problems. And I think you're right, Kim. And this is one of the areas where I think you and I first, saw eye to eye on this, is that there's a lot of hypocritical people that will talk about reining in government spending, but they'll make these arguments for subsidies for corporations because they don't have the. Let's be honest. This bill is evidence that fiscal conservatism is dead, which sucks because just a couple of months ago you had a pseudo government agency that was looking at at least advising on making cuts. Doge was a really good idea, and the person that was leading that effort is now the most critical, person of this big, beautiful bill, because it goes in the exact opposite direction of what their spoken goal is. So, Ahmed, you and I agree on this. I think that you and I probably have some differences on, what government's role is, but I think we agree in the hypocrisy of Republicans that talk about the fiscal irresponsibility of Democrats, and then they get into office and they're incredibly reckless with spending, especially with the way that they provide subsidies to corporate America and their advocacy to continue foreign aid. I think that there's a lot of things that we could cut down, but if they really wanted to find their balls, what we would this is when you know that fiscal conservatism comes back, when the people that are mainstream getting elected and making decisions are telling you their intention that, hey, we need to end Social Security and Medicare, or we're going to privatize these things. Until they start talking about that, they're just lying to you about being fiscally conservative.
Not to defend them, but they is cutting over $1 trillion for Medicaid and SNAP though. But
well, no, hold on. But you have to put the caveat in there.
That's $1 trillion over a 10-year period. Which, by the way, in 2028, depending on who wins and what Congress looks like, all of this stuff can get reversed anyways. And so by the time that 10 years is over, my guess, my prediction is that they're not going to save $1 trillion. They're not going to get anywhere close to that. In fact, if I had to guess that by 2034, when they say they're going to save $1 trillion, I think they're going to actually spend more money because I think they're going to spend more money.
And we don't disagree about spending. Like I'm not for foreign spending. I'm not for corporate welfare or social welfare, for that matter. But you can't continue to do foreign welfare and corporate welfare, but tell the people, especially students, like no, we can't do. This is where we draw the line. So if you're gonna do that, then you gotta cut them off. It ain't. So I'm not gonna praise them because I agree with cutting spending. I'm not going to praise them because they cut it in one way that hurts the people. And they didn't address the main two ways at all. So now that's the problem. Not only the hypocrisy that who they are targeting, they are clearly targeting the people. And I don't see how nobody can accept that.
Well, yeah. So in terms of, they're doing what they think they can get away with, right? What they can get past. I mean, this bill barely got passed. So they do what they think they can get done. But ideologically, like I would say, like if I had to prioritize these things, I would start with erasing federal funding of just foreign aid completely, full stop. I would do it in a phased approach. I would stop any country that is adversarial to us would get nothing. Any country that then the next wave would be any country that that has a trade imbalance that we think is unfair. I'd cut that funding next, and I would do this in waves, and I would eventually get to our allies where I would cut that funding, and then after all the federal foreign aid is cut, then I would go into subsidies, and I would push for a constitutional amendment that taxpayer dollars should never fund corporations. Period. Full stop. And then regulatory capture, we should address that as well because that's a big piece of it. And then the final thing would be the social welfare programs, which is the biggest part of the budget. But the reason why I prioritize this stuff is we're giving U.S. taxpayer dollars to countries where U.S. citizens, don't benefit, and then corporations, the vast majority of the people are not benefiting from that. So then when we get to the social component of it, that would be the final one, and that would be the hardest pill to swallow. But I think that if we were to knock these dominoes down one by one, that's the order in which I would go.
Yeah, I would agree with that. They're going in the reverse. And I mean, not only the reverse order, I don't think they're going to get to another thing. I think this is where they're going to stay, and that is the problem.
I still didn't get my answer. Is he on the phone? He is. But does anybody know when we talked about the education, Department of Education going to the states? Did this really mean for the loans to be? Roger, are you here?
I'm back. Yeah.
Okay, so I said I still didn't understand. I didn't get the answer that I was looking for. So do you know when we talk about this Department of Education going to the states, does that mean the loans be handled by private sectors or still by government, but now by the states?
All loans will be private sector. There's something changing. We know the federal scrutiny on here. And like I said earlier, once you give the loan, once you finish, the interest started accruing at 50% instantly while you're in school. So even if tuition didn't go down tonight, by the time you got out of school, you're going to be owing probably more because the interest, the compound is so much on. By the I don't see how this is a fake or a win or I just think it hurts you. I think it's intentionally to hurt people.
Is it me or Hakima's voice is really difficult to hear?
No, is it better now, Sarah?
Sorry, I'm at the grocery store. I'm gonna probably have to stay muted for a little bit. Matter of fact, I need to turn the volume down. Can't afford for you guys to ruin my reputation by saying weird things.
And the prophet lifted up his grandson's gown.
You talk about pedophile, what happened?
Al-Hussein, yeah, his grandson. This is baby penis. The blind Roger turned it up.
I can't wait to Roger get back so he can tell us how he like find that video to give ICE $150 billion. What was ICE using $150 billion? This is crazy.
All I know is if the student loan goes from federal to private lender, that is actually going to be the start of systemic racism and systemic classism.
100%.
See, Hakima, see? When I say we don't have systemic racism right now, it's because we don't. But it looks like we're headed that way. I can't believe this. I can't believe America's going downward.
Hey, sir, this is going to be another layer. This is something that you want to see because we're going to thank people that you know, but there's another layer of the systemic racism that they're just digging into. But it's not like it didn't exist in other places. They're just making it even worse. They took away affirmative action. Now they're hitting the low income, not just black and minorities in general, lower class whites as well going to suffer from it. But so basically it's an attack on class.
That's why I call it systemic racism, systemic / classism, because it's class that they're attacking. If they do this, I don't know if this is going to happen, honestly. I don't think it will happen. I hope it doesn't happen.
It's going to be signing it into the law tomorrow. Like, it's not an if. Like,
no.
They advance Congress, and then
what is in that bill that is regarding this? So student loan is done, the government is not paying student loan? No, that's not it. I don't even know what's in the bill.
That's in the bill. The government, they will privatize student loans. That is, even people that got current students,
Okay, I gotta go read this bill. I might take
Sarah, do you only talk when others are talking?
That is something I do often too, yeah.
Sarah, can I just say this? This is my hope of what happens with private lenders. I hope that they do discriminate, but the ones that I want them to discriminate against are those that are less likely or higher risk of defaulting on the loan. And so, yeah, I want people to have their credit scrutinized, so then they can make assessments of whether or not it's wise to give them this loan or not. And so, if the end result of that ends up meaning that an identity group has a larger percentage, that's just that's something that I'm willing to accept, because the number one thing is, and I don't care how it turned out, other than just making sure that we're doing this on the basis of credit worthiness. If you don't have credit worthiness, they shouldn't give you a loan. And the previous way was allowing.
Hey, Rob, you're not these black or low income people or just poor people that don't know about credit. Like they have no credit. Like when you're 18, a lot of black people don't even didn't know what credit was. They have bad credit. So they're not gonna qualify. That's for the simple fact that they didn't have a parent that they could attach them to their credit card, that they could help them get credit they could. But now you getting punished for a lack of knowing a lack of knowledge in the system that you've been systemically held back in. Like I think on the surface, I mean, I get what you're saying, but when you really think about it, like the shit is not okay, right?
And Roger, you earlier told me to take a couple math classes. I do have an MBA, and I understand where you're coming from and what you hope to see happens from this loan going to private lenders, but as how the business is supposed to work and how the loan department's supposed to work, it doesn't work in the way that you and I wish. The way it works is they don't care who that student is, what their GPA is, what they may or may not accomplish in future. They're going to look and see what does this person have that they can hold on to as collateral damage, before wanting to lend the money to them. And that is absolutely going to affect this is really bad. I don't know.
Wait, hold on.
Absolutely.
No, hold on. And Nix, it's not your turn to speak. And if you interrupt again, you're going to be removed from the room.
I love that.
We're not bringing you back up. You're just a fucking retard. Period. Sarah, so here's the issue, right? If you were the bank, if you were lending money, don't you believe that it's your right to establish the criteria for assessing?
Definitely.
Okay.
And the way I'm gonna place that, characteristics of it is gonna actually contribute directly to systemic racism and systemic classism. That's how I'm gonna do it.
Wait, hold on. I want to respond to the retard in the chat. He seems to think that the banks are backed by tax dollars. Now, we have given them bailouts, which was tax dollars. There's that. So I'd agree on that front. But I would bet this moron thinks that FDIC comes from taxpayer dollars. I would bet that this moron believes that. I would bet that he doesn't understand what member banks funding FDIC actually means. I would bet that this idiot he does know. He does know. Okay, so explain to me, Nix, from the chat. No, I'm not bringing you up. You're an ignorant fool. But from the chat, tell me, how is FDIC funded? No, I'm not letting you speak. You lost that privilege by twice being on the stage and interrupting people with stupid comments. So listen, and by the way, I will just say this. I can tell by your photograph. I can tell by the way that you carry yourself in that photograph that you are a fucking retard. I can make that assessment. Go ahead. Yes, I'm judging you.
That's a limp dick blunt, by the way.
Yeah, he should look at the blunt that I'm smoking in my PTR. That one's.
I don't know how.
Anyways,
is funded. I assume it's just a regulation. Like, aren't banks just funded by the money people put in them?
Well, no, but we're talking about insuring the money. When you put your money in the bank, what ensures that money is going to be insured? There's a mechanism where after the run on the banks, what happened was they said, well, we need to fix this problem. So they needed to get confidence back in people to put their money in the banks, so the banks can get money by.
Right, that's what it is.
Right. But hold on, let me just say this. But the insurance only goes up to $250,000, and that fund to insure that $250,000 comes from the members of that bank. By the way, there is no requirement. A bank cannot be a member bank of FDIC. There's very few of them left. There's a bank in Hayward, California, that was very rogue in this. That they actually didn't put money into FDIC. They were not a member.
Did they have anything else weird, like weird interest rates or something?
Well, here's what was very interesting. They had the highest interest rates out of any bank in town. The problem was that they didn't have, they weren't insuring this. That being said, over the years that I lived in that area, people were happy banking with them, and they were getting much better returns on the money they had in savings. And the problem is, if there was a calamity and that bank went broke, you'd have no recourse to get any of your money.
Right. insurance provisions necessary for every account.
It's actual money that's put in by the member banks. They put the money in. It's a commitment that they make to fund it.
Meaning the other FDIC banks?
Correct. Any member bank of FDIC is paying a fee, and that's where that fund comes from. And in fact, that fund is interest bearing. So they're probably profiting off of this pooled resource that they have that allows them to insure up.
Sure, I mean they're paying. What you're saying is basically like a line item of an expense.
Correct. Correct. And if you don't want to participate, you don't have to. But what most banks have found is that making the claim that we will insure $1,000 is something that's a selling point to a person that's opening a savings account.
Right. Innovative banking.
Mojo, so Mike in the chat is saying that there still be a federal loan, but it will be capped at 100 or 200K, which is so interesting because Jules, is he still here? No, he's gone. We were in another room like sometime last week. I was talking about like how a lot of people are like scamming through these student loans. Pepe was there, you know, and he's like, this doesn't make sense. I'm like, well, they're doing it. You could go to community college for 8 years and keep getting loans and then just taking art classes or whatever, like with no purpose of, you know, building a career, and there was no cap. They would just give you more and more and more loans. So I think from what I'm hearing from Mike, that's what they're doing, which I'm all for it. We don't have, you know, I don't want my tax money to go to like people just fucking scamming, you know, the system and just taking money out and then never paying it. But to just completely abolish student loans, I just think that would be very, very wild. I really don't see that ever happening unless we first fix our education system, fix the cost of education, make it affordable, and then we go that route. Otherwise, this is going to be a disaster. In my opinion, though, I would, if we had this system where I couldn't get student loans and I didn't have these government, opporturities, I would still be working in a supermarket today.
Hold on. What if you didn't have the credit worthiness to get a loan?
I don't think that should matter because when people are 18 years old or 20 years old or 25 years old, when people decide to go to school, and what they do is they're actually participating. We, the taxpayer, we are investing in that person to give a return back to the society. Like that person can go become a mechanic, they can do anything. And then
so what you're saying is you favor a policy that mandates that taxpayers fund the education of the people in the country. And again, by definition, what you're describing is that you are a socialist.
So were you a socialist last year when you were like fighting with me that you thought our taxpayers should pay billions of dollars to Ukraine? Because I was against that. I was America first, but you were caring too much about our allies.
Yeah, so I'll make this very clear. I don't know if you've ever heard me talk about this, but I can remember a 6-month period talking about this. Matter of fact, I just mentioned it a few minutes ago, is that I'm not in favor of any foreign aid. That doesn't mean that you can't come to the aid of your allies. I think that when a country like Russia invades another country, the whole civilized world should look at that and say, well, what can we do? And what I would have done, rather than just giving the weapons, is what I would have said is first of all, the taxpayers have paid for this weaponry. What I would have done is I would have said, we are going to, since we're not actively at a war, we're going to loan these weapons, or maybe it's a lease to own, and you're going to pay for them. And we'll put you on a long payment plan, but I would make Ukraine pay it back. That's what I.
I get a simple question. Do you really want to take advice from Nick's when he wrote, "White folks are so ignorant"? Does he understand that the word folk doesn't need an S because it's a plurality of individuals.
Well, I think the other thing that it's interesting is that him referring to people on the stage as white folk. I mean, Nye's not white folk. Adam's not white folk. XG's not white.
I'm not
You're
white.
not white. Sarah's not white. Akima's not white. My people were conquered by the Moors, so I'm not white. So, I mean, like, who in the fuck on this stage is even white? Yeah, it's very interesting. Very interesting. Akima doesn't like when I bring up the Moors. He thinks that the raping and the pillaging of the Portuguese people was the God-given right.
I love it, man. It's funny because like they did rape or pillage. I like the recognition that they have sitting the people. Man.
Does anyone have a link?
It's pretty funny. Damn, shit. I tell you, man.
Your voice is so low, Hakima.
And it's distorted, Hakima.
It's so bad. That's probably why I do that. It's my ADHD.
No, you did it with Roger, and we can hear him just fine.
No, his voice is really bad. But does anybody have a link to this 900-page bill? I'm going to sit down and read it because I can't stand people just saying things that's going to give me heart attacks.
Go to a site called Read the Bill, and it'll read it to you, and you can speed it up. I think that's probably the best way to consume something like this because it's.
I need to read myself. I can't listen.
No, if your ADHD set it the speed at 1.5.
Do you
with the
ADHD find a PDF like that?
I know. He was telling me you could also find the audio, and I was just saying if you put it at 1.5 with ADHD, it doesn't allow for your brain to get distracted when you're listening.
I'm a fast reader, though.
Okay, there's a link. There's a link. Just look in the chat.
Thank you.
It's probably above the reading comprehension level.
I know, but I just said it because I didn't want to hear any more talking.
Well, but you didn't let me finish. I was going to say a graduate of Compton University.
Oh, dude, that 1.5 speed definitely works. I watch a lot of YouTube now, and I tend not to get distracted and switch to the next video.
Yeah.
So if you have ADHD, it definitely helps. I thought it was stupid.
You know, when I had a commute and I was going an hour and a half each way, I would put on. I would go and listen to like a podcast, and I would throw that on. Audiobooks, the same thing. And I flirted with different speeds. 1.5. If it's something that I already kind of know and missing a note here or there would be okay, I could throw it on 1.5. But for me to really digest something, it's 1.25 is where I would listen to it at. But I fucked around, put it up to like 2.0. At a certain point, when the voices start sounding like chipmunks and they're going really fast, the only way that I would do that is if I was like listening to like a recap of like, let's say if I missed an episode of like Raw, I watched pro wrestling and I was listening to people comment on what happened because I don't need to catch every detail. Then I can listen to something like that.
Yeah, for the most part, what I'll do, like, whenever I'm listening to stuff on YouTube, most of the time it's just fucking political debates or whatever. So for the most part, when I listen there, a lot of them speak like they have an aneurysm, so I have to put them at 2x speed to be able to like get your fucking point out. Holy shit, you can't just speak like 2 words a minute. But for someone like Destiny, for example, he speaks fast as shit already. So I can just put him on like 1.5 or 1.25, and that'll be fine with him.
Yeah, I have a tendency to get distracted or see something down in the next clip, and I'm like, that looks interesting.
Right.
Let's look on that one. And it's like I made it 26 minutes into the 2-hour podcast that I was actually enjoying. Surprisingly enough, I wasn't actually a big fan of Rogan's podcast and him personally. And then I started watching his podcast, and I came across an episode about coyotes, and I was like, who the fuck would watch a 3-hour episode about coyotes? And I was like, you know what, fuck it, there's nothing else to watch. So I just clicked on it, and by the time I got to the end, I was like, oh my god, it was only fucking 3 hours? Like, I need 3 hours more of this shit. It was fucking fascinating.
Another thing that Rogan does really well is that he's inquisitive, naturally inquisitive. He's relatively intelligent. Like, I don't think he's like a super brain. But he's relatively intelligent. He's genuinely curious. So the people that
conversations that he has questions that he wants the answers to, and then because of that, he still has this relatability to a wide variety of people, especially the way he communicates, the way that he'll find the humor in things. He's willing to ask the tough question. All of those things. I think Rogan is the very best at what he does. The only part that I cringe at is when people over-index on the importance of his opinions. I think that the real value of what Rogan does is he brings people onto his show that are educated on certain topics, some people not, but he will ask them for their opinions. He will challenge them if something sounds like bullshit. He even has his sidekick right there to pull shit up. If he they do fact checking.
You see with Bernie?
In your near real time fact checking. It's amazing. Actually, you know what? I would love for somebody that likes to do fact checking to have that be their sole responsibility in these rooms, where when somebody makes a claim, they go and they research it, and then they don't even have to come off mic to say it unless it's really an egregious claim that's not supported by facts. But just put links in the chat to say so and so said this. Here's what I found. I think that would be an excellent addition to this. And I know that you can find things that support any argument, but fact checking, at least putting a source out there, would then put the onus on others to say, oh, that's bullshit. Here's a source that shows that that's bullshit. I think we can get deeper and wider with this stuff if we did some fact checking.
Well, one of the things I was going to say about Rogan and his way that he conducts his conversations is it seems like he asks the questions that you're sitting there thinking at that moment. So, he's relatable in that sense. You're sitting there and you're like, fuck, man, push Bernie on that, because Bernie's like, the Trump administration received $250 million from one super PAC. And Rogan's like, well, how much did they give to Kamala Harris? And, he already had the number. And Bernie's like, oh, yeah, it was a lot of money. And he's like, it was $1.59 billion between all the super PACs, he's like, well, I'm not saying this is a Republican and Democrat thing, but that's one of the things that I love about Trump too, is you're sitting there screaming at the fucking TV, and you're like, because you'd be in jail, that's exactly what everybody was fucking thinking. She's like, we're glad that you're not president. And he's like, because you'd be in jail. It's exactly what everyone's fucking thinking, murder that bitch, verbally.
So let's dive into this Elon stuff, though. So Elon said that if the bill passed, he would start a third party, and he would challenge in the primaries those that voted for it.
They didn't blink eye, Roger. They voted for that shit.
So go ahead.
Do you guys think that he's going to carry through on this?
I'm gonna give an opinion that most people are probably gonna disagree, and it's just my personal anecdotal, evidence that I have for Elon Musk. I think that everything that drives him is his fucking ludicrous ideal of getting to Mars and further expanding out into colonies and all this kind of shit. So that's why he has Tesla open source. I genuinely don't think his autistic rapid ass really gives a fuck about the money. It's all about furthering his fucking idea. And I think when Trump comes out and says that they're going to cut $10,000, for government tax breaks or subsidies, whatever, for electrified cars and stuff, I think that in Elon's mind, that hits at him, because he did not over necessarily the money or the capital, but the idea that it's not going to be able to further his progress in his exploration of space. And I think that's what solely drives that fucking idiot, and unfortunately to his detriment at times. I mean, I have an autistic son who's high functioning, has Asperger's, and he will. Everything revolves around Transformers and Ninja Turtles and Power Rangers, and he doesn't give a fuck about anything else. I mean, he could be like, hey, let's watch this, and he just fucking crashes out. All he wants to watch all day, every day, is those three shows. And I think Elon's kind of driven that.
My question was, do you think he's going to carry through with this promise and fund?
I'm sorry. I think if it is advantageous for him and his ideas, then yeah, I think he will. I don't think it'll go anywhere. I hope it.
Well, I hope it does, because all he's saying is that he wants Republicans that run for Congress to be fiscally conservative, and he's willing to support those that truly mean it. That means the re-election campaigns of people like Chip Roy and Rand Paul and Thomas Massey. I would imagine he'll probably get some funding behind Justin Amash if he decides to run again. I think these are all positive things in terms of fiscal conservatism. That doesn't necessarily mean I agree in lockstep with everything that some of these candidates do.
See, whilst I agree with what you're saying, the ideal of a third party scares me a little bit, because it leaves open the option for a fourth party, and the fourth party would be fucking some hardcore socialist, borderlining, if not communist fucking group. And
but hold on, but
I think there's enough dumbasses to vote for that.
Well, I think that's actually a good thing, though, because my hope would be that we would have. I hope the Democrats can splinter as well, and have the progressives separate from the liberals. I know a lot of people's heads explode when I say that liberals and progressives are not the same thing.
Yeah, they're different.
They're much different. And if the liberals and the progressives had their own parties, then we would see, like what people really believe in. And by the way, if the progressives were to factionalize and have a candidate out there that draws some of those liberal voters into the progressive camp, I think that only makes it easier for somebody that's more sound principle on the opposite side of the spectrum to be able to win. And so I would ideally like to see four parties where we can have hardcore left, hardcore right, middle left, middle right. And I think if we had that, even if that meant that there becomes a couple of members of Congress or the Senate that represent the fringes, I think what happens is we drive people back to the to where you can actually have conversations, which is center left.
I mean, moderate Democrats, moderate Republicans, Nazis, and commies.
Yeah. Well, the one thing I was going to mention, Mojo, is, I understand what you're saying. It's like when I hear Ben Shapiro say that, taxation is theft. And I'm like, I get what you're saying. I agree with the sentiment. But at the same time, I don't believe in society, and I don't believe in this generation and the generation that's coming after this to actually step up and go, hey, there's a fucking pothole in the road. We should fix that. No. Let's just buy fucking rims and PS5s and PS6s. And, I mean, we've seen this with the stimulus shit where the majority of people did.
Just to interrupt real quick, it's actually worse than what you're saying, because not only do they ignore the potholes, what they do is when there's a small group of people that say, God, these potholes have gotten out of control. In Oakland, they have a group of people that if you tell them where the potholes are at, they'll go in the still of the night and drop all of the material in the street that's necessary to pave the roads. And then another group of people will follow that Reddit thread and they will actually go fix the pothole. So you have some people that are providing the material and others that are doing the labor. And the city of Oakland, the state of California, charge those people for fixing potholes.
No, I understand what you're saying, but do you think overall across the entire United States, the ideal of like charities and people donating, I think my grandfather's generation would all look at each other and go, hey, we should fucking fix this shit. I don't believe in the fucking nicks of our society that are actually going to fucking step up. And I know that they don't actually contribute enough to even matter, but I think there's just so many fucking idiots in this world that I don't have any real genuine faith in society anymore.
And I think that's reasonable for you to doubt the generations. But if you look through human history, there's periods of time, and I won't go with the whole cliche about, bad times leads to strong people, and strong people lead to strong men lead to good times. But
there are cycles where things are worse, and there's cycles when things are better. I think that just a study of history says that we're not just in a complete downward spiral. There will be good times again. Which generation leads to that? I don't know, but I believe in that. The other thing I would add to that is that I think the way to get there is to not completely gut the institutions that we have today that are failing. I think that's gonna happen.
Restructure.
But we have to first build parallel institutions to be able to allow people to say, wow, that works and that doesn't. For example, when I say Social Security should be privatized, I didn't just come to that opinion by saying that, hey, I think that that's a good theory. I looked at what happened when the Galveston folks in the 1970s were able to exploit a then loophole that's been closed since, to be able to move their money and invest it privately from Social Security and then 10x the return that everybody else was getting on Social Security. So I can actually look at a parallel plan and I can provide the evidence that privatization of Social Security led to better outcomes.
Yeah, I mean, for me, like social safety nets, I kind of pulled on both directions. You know, I see the example of, you know, my grandmother and stuff like that who couldn't afford, you know, food, and people did come in and help her and stuff like that. But the government itself was only offering, you know, like a couple $100 a month and shit to like help her out, you know, financially because she was disabled. But in the same breath, you know, when I'm in my 20s and I'm at the crab stop on MLK in Daytona Beach, Florida, and I go in there and a girl's paying for $500 worth of fucking crabs for a party on her SNAP card, and then paying $50-$60 extra to have them cooked, the raw crabs. And I see that type of shit, and I'm like, this bitch is getting fucking $1,000 a month for food stamps, but my grandmother can't even get any fucking assistance because she doesn't have 17 fucking kids like this lady. I mean, it just sucks. I mean, there is people in need that actually need the shit. And, you know, for the people that are disabled and elderly and shit like that, if we want to take care of them through charitable donations, and even if you want to consider, you know, something like SNAP as a charitable thing, you know, to take care of the people that can't take care of themselves, but then you just have other motherfuckers that just go around and get fucking $1,000 a month or $2,000 a month on SNAP and just fucking, they're physically able and, you know, they're the same lady that bought $500 for the fucking crabs who was in a fucking late 90s, early 2000s fucking Buick on fucking 22s with like 10,000 watts bumping in the fucking trunk, and she's in there paying for fucking crabs and shit.
So let me ask you a question, Rich, because if you look at large sums of money that come out of seniors' accounts, you know, when their grandchildren fuck up and have to be bailed out, do you think that there should be a certain government limit as to how much financial abuse the elderly people should be able to sustain due to their younger knuckleheaded children?
Wait,
that was kind of the point that I was getting at. Like, you don't know how many times I see on a daily basis where people know that
I didn't know if you were
has a house. No. I paid out of pocket. Thank you very much. So it was the other way around. I was supporting my mom, not the other way around. So if you look at some of the people that I deal with on a regular basis, they see that their parents have $1.5 million house. But the parents aren't able to age in place because they need a certain amount of care. So what they'll do is they'll try to cut corners, right, to avoid having to sell that house because the kids otherwise want to benefit off of that house and the fruit of their parents' hard work to enjoy their money after they're gone, versus a person who's able to benefit from their own sold house to be able to go into a facility where they're able to get dignity and age in place. I think there's a bigger conversation. Like, as people have this colloquial conversation from 2020 about generational wealth, I think that people took away the wrong message. Generational wealth doesn't mean that your parents should have to work themselves into a damn near an early grave, and when they're at the very end of it, they should sacrifice their well-being and their quality of life so that you can go and buy your child a Tesla when you send them off to college as an adult. That to me is just, I mean, I don't know why people don't see what's happening.
That did feel like projection.
So if you're appointed as a conservator and you know that they're assets that the person that you're supposed to be caring for has, that are there to work for the benefit of the person that you're supposed to be taking care of, but then you choose not to go through those resources because you know on the back end that you're going to inherit it, you don't think that that's elderly abuse? And you don't think that that puts a very unfair burden on American taxpayers?
Wait, let me ask you a question. Did these people not have food to eat, or are you just talking about, well, they couldn't get into the one with the golf course, so they just got into a regular nursing home?
There are no assisted living facilities in California that have their own golf course.
I was being facetious.
So no, but it's a very extreme example, and I don't think that people understand, Rich, how big of a problem it is.
Okay, spas.
A bunch of people who are moving money around, who are abusing laws, and otherwise squandering their parents' resources and ignoring their quality of life so they can contribute to this effort of maintaining and preserving generational wealth. They're cheating. So it's not like they're actually growing or continuing the business of their said parent to be able to scale their own generational wealth. They're basically preserving what little their parents left behind that really should be speaking to their quality of life, and they're getting second tier options for their parents so that they can monetize on the back end. You don't think that that's elderly abuse?
Yes, I would just like to say,
and that's my
I would just like to say that it's very nice to peer into the other side of the world. Go ahead.
No, I think it's happening a lot more than people like to admit to, and it is very much so a real problem, and it is very much so elderly abuse.
I mean, I would agree with you because I'm one of these people that believes in living, below your means.
What do the elderly do anyway, other than just sit there?
They got a Tesla, or they got a Honda Accord instead of a Tesla.
Some of them still actually work at XG.
Because, like, I know we talk about, oh, this is a burden to the taxpayer, this is a burden to the country. On a mass scale, aren't elderly people just kind of burdens?
No, they're not. They pay the majority of the tax base. Like, what are you talking about? If it's anybody who should be paid reparations in America, it should be the elderly.
For what? For them to die in like 5 years and then have all that shit go to the next generation?
Well, it was a lot of that sad elderly that, suited up and booted up so that, you can talk trash on the internet. Preserve your freedom. So you don't think that they should be compensated for that?
No. I mean, they got what they wanted, was the freedom out of it. Congrats. Appreciate them.
Okay, so why don't they have access to their hard-earned equity? Because you didn't decide to have children in a responsible manner and your kids need a college fund. That's your problem.
I agree. And they made it their problem by letting it go.
All I gotta say is thank God for Donald Trump, because Social Security is, no tax. What the fuck? Fuck yeah.
Look at how many Democrats allow that to be a problem. It took one orange man to say the quiet part out loud.
That's why I say balls of steel. That's what the guy has. He's got big fucking balls, big cojones, motherfuckers.
Balls of steel, the color of orange peel.
Balls of steel that you have to fake an assassination attempt.
What? You sound like a true Democrat. Oh my God.
And you look like a true Republican.
You got that from his cartoon? Fourth of July, what are you guys doing tomorrow?
Working.
As am I. See, we have so much more in common than you think, XG.
I think we just both are employed. I don't think there's that much in common, Adams. I'm not gonna lie.
No, but there's a whole lifestyle and ideology behind that.
That's fair.
Holy shit, a
Democrat that works.
Oh my God, white guy, that was so white of you to say. Where did everyone go?
They didn't like to hear the truth.
What did you do, Adams? What did you do again?
Reminding them of how much they're milking their parents.
Oh boy. Hakima, did you see that? Did you see I was saying that bill is going to be trash, but then did you see how it turned out?
You weren't defending shit, Sarah. You just said you said like 20 minutes ago you didn't know what the fuck was in the bill. How would you defend something you don't know?
Why don't you just shut the fuck up?
Hey, Sarah, the bill still is trash. The bill still is trash.
No. But Hakima.
Let me tell you why. About your concern, the privatization. It's not all going strictly privatization, but they laid the groundwork. And by 2029, it will be, if they continue on this path, it will be total privatization by 2029. So it's not total right now, but that's their statement.
Privatization of what?
I'll tell you. Hold on.
That's a good thing.
But did you see Hakima? Did you see how it was a lie? It wasn't that they are completely making it private.
It's not a lie. That's what they work. That's what they're moving at.
It's not. Mike said there's 100,000 or 200,000.
Hakima, listen.
Just because Mike said that, I don't mean that's the truth. I'm reading something entirely different.
Hakima, how do you think that I know so many strippers in Southern California? Right? Because I went to school with a lot of them. Okay? It used to be something that if you didn't have the money or you weren't approved for that loan, you went and you stripped. That's just what it is. You got to use what you got to get what you want. Okay? So at the end of the day, why is it okay for the same generation where people are selling pussy on OnlyFans? Okay? And you mean to tell me that this generation has no options? They don't even have to get all the way naked. They could just take pictures of their feet, okay, and buy themselves a new Tesla. I'm sorry. The party is over, Hakima. I don't want to be paying any more for these knuckleheaded kids to spend $100,000 to get a liberal studies degree to work at Starbucks. I'm sorry.
Adam, it's pretty messed up that you're promoting prostitution when they just convicted.
I said promoting stripping. There's nothing wrong with stripping.
You know what it leads to, and I you're promoting prostitution when they just
stripping is half prostitution, dude.
It's not. Well, then don't work the night shift, okay? Strip. Go home with your tips when the sun goes down, okay? You know what happens in the street after the lights go out. So again, just to say that, listen, there are some of the most respected women on Park Avenue that only met their husbands because they were strippers, okay? So I find nothing wrong with stripping. Now, hoeing, that's a whole other thing. Just because you're a stripper don't make you a hoe. Just because you're a hoe doesn't make you worthy of being a quality stripper.
Yeah, I'll put it this way. I just find it funny.
You got some lazy strippers out there. That's why you have bitches sucking dick in the champagne room. The bitches who know how to dance and who look good, they're making money and they're not sucking dick. Like, what are we talking about?
If we can equate loans to socialism, but we can't equate prostitution to stripping, okay, I got you.
That's not prostitution. There's no sex involved.
Exactly. There's no socialism. There's no redistribution of wealth going on either. So, I mean, I'm saying, like, for the same people that can look at loans and be like, that's socialism, for you to be able to look at to look at stripping and be like, that's not prostitution, I just find it weird how the analogies can get drawn so far apart in some places, and then when it's super close right next to each other, it's all of a sudden giant distinctive line.
Great point, actually.
Yeah, it's funny because I had a girl once explain it all to me, and because I thought it was prostitution too. You know, I was on the Hakima side of things, and she explained to me, no, it's not, because we're not having sex, you know, and so anyways, it just I was dumbfounded. It's the same fucking logic as Mormons. We didn't fuck, she just bounced all the time.
First of all, somebody saying to do a running pivot over up onto the pole, spread your legs, okay, and shake that ass. What the hell does that have to do with fucking? Can somebody explain that to me? What does that have to do with fucking? Shit, you got Laker girls that are doing the same damn thing in outfits and pom-poms, and you call them cheerleaders.
That's the legal name.
Stripping's legal too.
Never thought I'd see the day Adams be pro sex work.
How is it sex work with no sex?
I don't know. Maybe sexual activities. Last time I checked, I don't think lap dancing is necessarily non-sexual.
Because it's not.
So giving someone a lap dance isn't sexual.
Come on, Adam, stop.
Adams, please, man. Okay, so Adams, if I were to give a random person a lap dance right now, I wouldn't get accused of sexual harassment?
It depends on how you look at it.
Oh my fucking God, Adams.
Upside down, straight forward, backwards.
Only if you're working with them, man.
We can find how all these music artists are. So WAP is not. Is WAP sexual? By Cardi B, is that sexual, Adams? Or no? Because no sex was involved.
You can tap your coworker's shoulder, and that can be sexual harassment.
Well, no, but Cardi B and Megan, those are sex workers.
Okay, what are you talking about? Okay, now you lost me.
Like, what are you talking about? What are you talking about?
Adam, last time I checked, y'all bashed Megan Thee Stallion and Kamala Harris for the sexual dances. So now that's sexual.
Right.
It's not fucking. Oh no, stripping is not sexual. Please fucking stop it. Stop it, Adam.
It's not.
Adams. I don't know why you're choosing to die on this hill, bro.
So in other words, like, why do you go to a strip club? You go to a strip club because you want your dick sucked, or you want your dick to be hard, right? So
I go to the strip club to meet people. I'm telling you, I don't know what y'all are talking about. They got some good chicken wings up in there. I go in there to meet people. Okay, I go in there to.
That's how you know somebody go too much, when they say, I go because the food is good.
And why do you think my sales numbers are where they are?
You know what?
So at the end of the day, thank you. There's a lot of business done on the strip club, okay, and on the golf course. So like I said, going to the strip club has nothing to necessarily do with sex.
Then why not just go to a club?
That is a club.
One without the word strip in front of it.
no, he's talking about a nightclub.
Right. It's just a club where some of the patrons just don't wear clothes. What are you talking about? Shit, I'm a conservative, not a prude. Like y'all make it sound like I'm walking around in a penguin nun suit or some shit, talking, shaking my finger, saying you're all going to hell.
Well, kind of. No. Is twerking sexual? Is that sexual, Adam?
Twerking is demonic.
Why is it demonic? It's demonic because of what? Because it's too sexual? What is it? Let me know.
No, it's demonic because they're gyrating all over the place for no reason. They must be possessed by the devil.
So at least
the strippers are coordinated, right? You can tell that the strippers are in control over their movements, okay? They know they need to make that money, they shaking that ass, okay? But somebody who's twerking, you just hearing music and you letting the devil take them.
No, but if somebody's twerking, especially like at a public place, that might be like their little mating call to get somebody to come over. So I mean, they got a purpose in what they doing too. They coordinate it, just not with someone else.
Well, they need to twerk in front of the church, okay, and let the Lord come in. That's exactly what they need to do. They didn't call for the Lord.
Adams is down on a crazy hill right now. We'll let you down there.
Yeah, we'll let you have that take, Adam. Now, next room that I'm in, and I hear some shit about sexual deviancy or some shit, I'm gonna bring up the point about how you don't think that giving lap dances or strip clubs are sexual in any way. What's it?
You're not putting. Fatima knows I've worked in a strip club. Like, this is nothing new. Like, this is absolutely nothing new.
No, it's not about you having worked there. It's about you saying it's not sexual.
No, I did work there and it wasn't about sex. I needed the money. So again, just because somebody's up in the strip club doesn't mean it has anything to do with sex.
Okay, so you're telling me that the majority percentage of people that come as patrons to the strip club aren't there for something sexual?
Yes.
Come on, man, you full of shit.
Like, you have a lot of women that just like to go just to be there with their men. Like, what are you talking about?
That's not the most people.
That's definitely not most people. That's actually most people.
Nah. Definitely not.
I don't know. I mean, I've been to a couple, but I've never seen it be a 50-50 split or even a 60-40 split of men to women. It's always been like damn near 85-15.
I see more couples coming into strip clubs than single men by themselves.
I see more couples in the nightclubs. The nightclubs, I get that part, but the strip clubs, I don't see a lot of couples.
Now, the nightclub, that's where there's